It has been 5 days since I made my Brandon Aiyuk prediction on what would happen between him and the 49ers on February 22nd. My prediction was that Brandon Aiyuk would play this year on the fifth-year option. The percentages I gave that likelihood 5 days ago was this. I've got it at a 75% chance that Aiyuk plays on his fifth-year option, a 17% chance that he gets extended, and an 8% chance that he gets a trade. So that's where I stood on it 5 days ago. That's still where I stand on it today. Go watch the video back on February 22nd or listen to that podcast if you want to hear more about why I feel that way. We can get into a little bit of it here. Part of it, if you remember, was that when you go back and watch John Lynch's end of season press conference, he was asked about Aiyuk, and he said, you have to prioritize all these things. Brandon's entering his fifth-year option, ... And then he went on. So he was very clear up front that in addition to loving Brandon Aiyuk, the top thing that he thinks of when you ask him about Brandon Aiyuk is the fifth-year option. So that's not the only reason that I arrived at that conclusion. But John Lynch talked today on Tuesday at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. I watched it live. The only place I could find it live was on the SF Niners YouTube page, thanks to Brad doing great work out there. That was the only place I saw it live. It's since been posted, but if you go watch John, and he has posted the better video. He's got a live version and the better video. So I watched John Lynch live, and I was waiting to hear his Brandon Aiyuk answer. And here's what he said when asked about Brandon Aiyuk on Tuesday.
I think we've got a nice track record of extending the players that are important to us. And Brandon's a guy we want to keep around for a long time.
So there's different ways to interpret this. I think some people interpret it as it's not as a hard line as he took with Nick Bosa, when basically the Niners message was, don't even bother, don't call us, leave us alone. You're not getting Nick Bosa. Doesn't feel like they've taken quite a hard line there, but really they haven't taken that level of a hard line with anybody. It was the hardest line you could take. To me, that's not what's happening here. I think this is another hint, and I feel the same way after listening to John Lynch today that I felt 5 days ago, that the most likely outcome here is that Brandon Aiyuk plays this year on his fifth-year option. I think what John Lynch is preaching here is patience from Brandon Aiyuk's side. That's how I read between the lines here. That's how I interpret this. Let's listen again.
I think we've got a nice track record of extending the players that are important to us. And Brandon's a guy we want to keep around for a long time.
All right. So Brandon, look, man, we want to keep you around. Look at our history. When we say we want to keep you around, we extend you. We said we want to keep Debo around. We extended him. We said we want to keep Kittle around. We extended him. You're in that group. We want to keep you around, and we're going to extend you. Brandon says, great. Let's get this deal done. I'm thinking 4 years, 90 mil. And John Lynch says, well, let's talk next year. I think that's where this ends up. As I've said, I think the ultimate leverage here obviously resides with the 49ers because they have him under contract for this year. They could always at least hold the tag over his head if they wanted to. But Brandon Aiyuk is not in a desperate situation either. He's still young. He'll still be in his prime next year, athletic prime next year. I think my prediction is that his production will go up this year. I think he's going to have more catches. I actually think if he remains a Niner, he'll have the most catches in 2025. If they don't this year, in 2025, you'd expect maybe they lose a skill guy or the skill guys around him are a little bit older. But Brandon's making $14 million this year. So Brandon Aiyuk doesn't have to take any deal, right? He's not making $2 million this year like he was in each of the first 4 years. He's going to make more money this year than he's made in the first 4 years combined by double. So he can sit back and wait a little bit. Maybe there's a holdout because, ideally you would just get 50 million, 58, 60 million, 35, whatever. You'd get a bunch of guaranteed money now and not risk playing 2024. But if he's making $14 million, then you can at least breathe a little bit and go, I'm not going to let them give me a contract that's going to be well below market value. Let me at least get to free agency, and then they'll be in a more difficult situation. And I think the Niners are saying, no, we'll be in a year is when we are willing, really willing, and really able to do a deal with you. So that's where I'm at with this. Okay. He's not going to end up playing on a franchise tag anyway. They're not going to do it. He's not going to want it. That's not how they operate. But I take what John Lynch said today as, hey, we extend you, but we do it on our time. That's the part that he didn't say. We do it when it's right. We like you. We will do it, but everybody be patient. So I'm not holding my breath for a Brandon Aiyuk extension. I'm also definitely, as I've said, I think they'll take phone calls on him. Fine. Blow them away. I think what they're going to want as a price for Brandon Aiyuk is going to be far higher than the price people are going to want to pay. It's going to be, 4 first round, maybe 5, but 4 first round wide receivers, but 3 blue chippers. So you're going to have to really reach. There's a lot of tackles in this draft. There's a lot of quarterbacks in this first round. And there's a few receivers. So the first round picks this year are going to be very valuable. And, the level of pick it would take to get them, 13, 17, teams are not going to pay that. That is at least on a value proposition. When you look at recent receivers traded like Tyreek Hill or even Devontae, that's probably more than you should pay. So it would be that's why I identified the Jets. You would need a desperate team. And shy of that happening, he's not going anywhere. And, shy of them really feeling pressure to do it, I don't think they're extending him. So prediction holds, 5th-year option. That's what I think is coming. Cap went up higher than people expected. It'll go up again. They'll have a little more flexibility. They don't have to pay the quarterback next year. They don't have to pay Brock next year unless he does it in a way that benefits them. So, they've maintained flexibility. They'll maintain flexibility. It's been a hallmark of the John Lynch Parag marriage is, for the most part, they haven't gotten themselves backed into a corner. You'd like to have DeForest Buckner back. You'd also would have just liked to use the pick. I mean, if they had, let's just say, instead of drafting Kinlaw, drafted Wirfs and Aiyuk instead of Kinlaw and Aiyuk in the Buckner trade draft, nobody would be talking about Buckner at all. Nobody would be saying a word. The logic was not the problem with the Buckner trade. The execution on trying to replace him was the problem. Trading him was not it would have been, if they drafted a different player, we'd talk about that trade as a win-win trade. Nailed it. And we would talk about it as like a trade that, gave them 2 building blocks. I mean, and saved the money. Like it would go down as, I'm trying to think, would it go down as, the McCaffrey trade, an all-time transaction of this group, the Purdy pick in the George Washington position on the Mount Rushmore of, to borrow from my old buddy Dan Dibley, on the Mount Rushmore of John Lynch moves. So those 2, Bosa, he's fell in your lap. He's right there. But that would be it'd be on the short list. So the problem wasn't they traded the wrong player or they did the wrong thing from a contract standpoint. The problem was they didn't evaluate the replacement properly. They took a risk there and it didn't pay off. So comment, Thomas, I don't know why they don't get these done sooner. How much better would Debo Bosa have been if they were both in camp in their contract years? Yeah, Bosa basically said it. Debo basically said it. When it was just Debo, you could say, well, that wouldn't happen to Aiyuk. But what happened to Bosa, and Bosa admits afterwards, yeah, it affected me. If it can happen to Bosa, who's as prepared as anybody, then I guess it can happen to Aiyuk to a degree. So maybe their effort this year is going to be to communicate very early to him, we're not doing a deal this year, and try to get early acceptance so that there's not a holdout. That could definitely be, Max says McKivitz not nearly as bad as Burford this year. Feel like Foster could develop while McKivitz plays out the year. There's the possibility that two of those three guys are back. And if you solidify the right guard, maybe it makes the right tackle a little bit better. You know, when we were talking about it earlier today, I had some feedback like, oh, you know, Feliciano was fine, guy. What are you talking? Why would they draft a guard? Spencer Burford, Feliciano replaced Spencer Burford in the Super Bowl. But Burford got more snaps. So there's obviously a desired upgrade at that spot from Feliciano. So I would not sit pat there at right guard, and I don't think they will either. All right, that's the quick update. Thanks to Brad from the SF Niners for that live stream from Indianapolis, so I could watch that John Lynch video and react to it. And it only solidified my position. So that's my prediction. You know where I stand on this. You know where I stand on this issue, and we'll find out one day whether I'm right or wrong about it, and then we'll figure out why whatever happened. But that's where I stand right now on Aiyuk. All right, everybody. Thanks for jumping in on YouTube. If you're here, hit that like button, or if you're watching it after the fact, hit that like button. Helps out the channel very much. Subscribe to the channel. That helps very much as well. Makes you a little sponsor of the show. So thank you for doing that. Okay, y'all. Talk to you soon. Bye.